The battlefield was silent now. Smoke curled up from the black ground and pieces of metal burned red under the alien sky. Human soldier Eli Carter walked slowly through the ruins, holding his rifle close. His boots crunched over glass and broken helmets. The war between humans and the alien race called Virelians had ended hours ago, but he could still smell blood in the air. He was alone. His unit was gone. The storm above was thick with ash and dust, and the wind howled like ghosts. Eli's radio made a faint crackle in the static. He hit the side of his helmet. Anyone still alive? This is Sergeant Eli Carter, Unit 9B. No answer. Only the low hum of dying machines and falling debris. Then suddenly, through the static, a soft voice, weak, trembling. "I can't find my mother." Eli froze. The voice didn't sound human. It was lighter, musical, almost like a child whispering in another language, but somehow clear in his mind. He turned around quickly. "Who's there?" The voice came again, full of fear. "Please, I can't see. Everything is dark." Eli's heart raced. He scanned the shadows through his visor, but the smoke was too thick. He followed the sound, stepping over burned wrecks and twisted metal arms. The ruins stretched like a graveyard of war machines. The voice grew closer. "Help me, please." Finally, under a collapsed transport ship, Eli saw movement. A small figure was trapped between the wreckage. He dropped his rifle and crawled closer. The figure was a child, thin with silver skin and faint glowing marks across her face. Her eyes were covered with a strange blue cloth, and she trembled with every breath. Eli knelt beside her. "Hey, kid. Can you hear me?" She turned her head toward his voice. Her lips trembled. "You're human." Eli hesitated. "Yeah, I'm human. And you're—" "Virelian," she whispered, weakly smiling. "But I don't want to fight." Eli looked around nervously. If anyone from his command saw him helping an alien, they'd call him a traitor. But he couldn't leave her here. She was just a child, maybe 8 or 9, small and shaking. "What's your name?" he asked gently. "Lyra," she said. "I can't find my mother." Her voice broke when she said it. Eli saw her hands reaching blindly through the air, searching for something that wasn't there. "I'll help you," he said quickly. "But we have to move. This place isn't safe." Lyra's head tilted slightly. "You sound kind," she whispered. "But you are human." "My people said humans hate us," Eli sighed. "Not all of us." He tried to lift the metal beam trapping her legs. It was heavy and his muscles burned, but he didn't stop. Finally, with one last push, the beam rolled off. Lyra cried out softly as her leg moved. "You're free now," Eli said, panting. But when she tried to stand, she stumbled and fell forward. Eli caught her. Her skin felt cold, almost like smooth stone. "Easy," he said. "You're hurt." "I can't see," she whispered again. "Since the blast." "Everything is only sound," Eli frowned. "Sound?" "I can hear your heart," Lyra said quietly. "It beats fast." That made Eli shiver. "You can hear that?" She nodded slowly. "And I can feel things. Pain, fear, sadness. It's everywhere here." For a moment, Eli didn't know what to say. The world around them seemed to fall silent, as if even the wind was listening. "Your mother," he said finally. "Where was she last?" Lyra's face turned toward the sky. "The dark ships took her. Before the fire came." Eli's eyes widened. The dark ships, they weren't alien. They were machines. Human-built harvesters now gone rogue after the war. He took a deep breath. "Then we'll find her. But first we need to get out of here." He lifted Lyra into his arms. She was light like carrying air. She rested her head on his chest, and he could feel her small heartbeat, steady but tired. As he walked, the sky rumbled again. Thunder or something worse. Eli looked up and saw dark shapes moving through the clouds. Drones. Searchers. He ducked into the remains of a trench, hiding Lyra under a metal sheet. "Stay quiet," he whispered. The drone scanned the ground with red light beams. Lyra clutched his sleeve tightly. "They are looking for me," she whispered. "The machines. They want me." Eli's heart pounded. "Why?" Lyra's voice was small. "Because my mother made them." Eli stared at her in shock. The drones passed overhead, their lights sweeping across the ruins before fading away into the dark. When it was safe again, Eli looked at the little alien girl, blind, trembling, and yet strangely calm. He knew now that this wasn't just a rescue. It was the beginning of something much bigger. He adjusted his rifle, tightened his grip on her, and whispered, "We'll find your mother. Lyra, I promise." Somewhere far above, lightning tore across the alien sky. The war might be over, but Eli Carter had just stepped into a new one. The storm had passed, but the air still burned with the smell of metal and smoke. Eli Carter sat near the mouth of a broken cave, wrapping a piece of cloth around the small alien girl's leg. Lyra sat quietly beside him, her face turned toward the wind. Her blue eyes were still covered with the glowing band that hid her blindness. She spoke softly as if talking to the air. The storm is gone, but the ground is still crying. Eli looked up. Crying? Yes, she said, tilting her head. The pain in the earth, it doesn't stop. I can hear it. Eli stared at her, unsure what to say. She wasn't like any alien he had seen before. She didn't use sight. She felt the world through sound and emotion. It was strange and beautiful, and also a little frightening. How do you do that? He asked. She touched her chest with one hand. My mother said my eyes see in here. Eli said nothing. He watched her face, so calm yet so full of sadness. Lyra suddenly turned toward the cave wall and pointed. There are things moving outside, she whispered. Not animals, machines. Eli grabbed his rifle and crawled forward. He peeked through the rocks and saw 3 mechanical scouts gliding across the wasteland, red lights sweeping through the dust. The machines were searching, slow and patient. He cursed under his breath. We have to move now, Lyra nodded, her voice low. They can smell the metal in your gun. Eli froze. Smell it? She tilted her head again. They listen to everything. Their ears are in the wind. Eli realized then. She could sense the world in ways he couldn't. He had to trust her instincts. They slipped deeper into the tunnels under the ground. The light from his wrist lamp flickered against old human signs on the wall. Research Base, Sector 12. Lyra stopped suddenly. I know this place, she whispered. My mother worked here. Eli turned sharply. What did you say? She came here with humans. Before the war, Eli's breath caught. Humans and Varelians had worked together once, but that was long before the fighting. He followed her deeper until they reached a metal door half buried in dust. Lyra touched it gently. She was here, she said. Her memory is in this wall. Eli pushed the door open. Inside, they found rows of shattered machines, computers still humming with dying energy. He wiped the dust off a screen and saw human writing, Project Unity. Lead scientist Dr. Mira Varelian. Mira, Eli murmured. That's your mother? Lyra nodded slowly. Her lips trembled. She said she wanted to make peace between humans and my people. But then the dark ships came. Eli scrolled through the files. There were photos, humans and Varelians shaking hands, standing together in front of large robotic frames. It was clear. The machines that destroyed both races were built by both sides. Lyra reached out, touching the screen with her fingers. My mother said the machines were born to help us, not to kill. Eli looked around the ruined lab. Something went wrong, he said quietly. Suddenly, a faint humming sound echoed through the hall. Eli turned, aiming his rifle. A drone hovered at the doorway, its red eye glowing bright. Run, Eli shouted. Lyra grabbed his hand. No, wait, she lifted her other hand. The air rippled with blue light and the drone froze in midair, shaking violently. Its red light dimmed to nothing and it dropped to the floor like a stone. Eli stared at her in shock. What did you just do? Lyra looked frightened. I don't know. I just felt its anger and told it to sleep. He knelt beside the fallen drone. Its circuits were melted from inside, as if something had reached into its mind and turned it off. Eli looked at her again. You can control them? She shook her head quickly. No, I don't want to hurt anything, but when they come close, I can feel their pain. It hurts me too. He could see she was trembling, exhausted from whatever power she had used. He gently placed his jacket over her shoulders. You saved us, he said softly. She smiled faintly. Humans are loud, but your heart is kind. For a while, they sat in silence. Outside, lightning flashed again over the horizon. The machines were still searching, and now Eli knew why. They weren't just hunting any alien child. They were hunting something far more dangerous, or far more precious. Eli looked at her glowing hands and whispered, Lyra, what are you really? She lowered her head. I don't know. My mother said I was made to see the truth. Eli's stomach twisted. Somewhere deep down, he felt that truth wasn't going to be easy to face. As they moved deeper into the tunnels, the walls began to glow faint blue from her touch, lighting the way forward. She didn't need eyes. The world itself answered her, and Eli Carter, once just a soldier, now realized he was walking beside something beyond human or alien. He was walking beside hope. The morning came cold and gray. A strange mist rolled across the wasteland, thick like smoke from a dying fire. Eli Carter stood at the edge of the cave, his rifle slung over his shoulder, eyes scanning the horizon. The world looked empty, but he knew it wasn't. Somewhere out there, the machines were moving. Behind him, Lyra sat quietly, her hands folded over her knees. Her bandaged eyes glowed faintly beneath the cloth. The air around her shimmered slightly, as if she was breathing light instead of air. Eli turned to her. "We can't stay here. They'll track us again." She nodded slowly. "I can feel them already. They whisper in the wind." Eli frowned. "Whisper?" "They speak to each other through sound too high for you to hear," Lyra said softly. "They are looking for the one who broke their code." Eli's stomach tightened. She meant herself. The machines wanted her, and now they wanted him too. He packed what little food and water they had scavenged from the bunker. Lyra followed him, bare feet silent on the stone. As they stepped out, the gray sun broke through the clouds, lighting the endless battlefield below. Ruined ships lay half buried in the earth. Metal skeletons reached toward the sky. The ground itself seemed scarred, like something had burned through it from beneath. They walked for hours, keeping low. Lyra guided him sometimes, telling him when to stop, when to hide. She could sense danger before it came. Once she whispered, "Wait." Eli froze. Seconds later, a red beam sliced through the fog ahead of them, scanning the ground. A drone drifted past, silent as death. Lyra's hand trembled in his. When it was gone, she sighed in relief. "You saved us again," Eli said. She tilted her head. "No, you listened." For the first time in days, Eli smiled, but the peace didn't last long. By afternoon, they reached the edge of a broken city, once a human colony, now just ruins. Twisted towers leaned against each other like tired giants. Eli led her inside an old building to rest. The wind howled through shattered windows. He found an old photograph lying in the dust. It showed human scientists standing beside Varelians in white uniforms. Among them was a tall woman with silver eyes, her face kind, calm, and familiar. Eli turned the photo toward Lyra. "Does this look like your mother?" She reached out, touched the photo, and gasped, "Yes, that's her. That's my mother." Her fingers trembled. She worked with humans. She said they were her friends. Eli studied the photo again. The humans looked proud, before everything fell apart. Something inside him ached. What happened that turned allies into enemies? Before he could answer, a sharp metallic screech echoed from outside. Lyra's head snapped toward the window. "They found us," she whispered. Eli grabbed his rifle and peeked out. 6 drones hovered above the street, scanning the ruins with red beams. Behind them marched 2 tall metal figures, harvesters, human-shaped but cold and shining like silver death. Eli swore under his breath. "We run!" They raced down the stairway as laser fire tore through the walls above them. Lyra stumbled, but Eli caught her arm, pulling her behind cover. She pressed her palms to the ground. The floor began to hum. "I can stop them," she whispered. "No," Eli barked. "You'll burn yourself out," but she didn't listen. Her body began to glow with blue light, the same light that froze the drone before. Outside, the harvesters slowed, their lights flickering wildly. Then one by one, they turned on each other. The machines began to fight themselves. Eli stared in shock as metal claws ripped metal arms apart. Sparks flew like rain. Lyra collapsed, breathing hard, the glow fading from her skin. Eli lifted her up and ran as the city behind them burned again. They reached the outskirts and hid behind a cracked transport hull. Lyra shivered in his arms. "I didn't mean to hurt them," she whispered. "They scream when I touch their minds." Eli brushed her hair gently. "You did what you had to. But why do they want me?" she asked weakly. "Why can I hear their pain?" Eli had no answer, but deep inside he remembered the files from the bunker, the words, Project Unity. He had a terrible thought. What if the machines carried part of her mother's creation? And part of Lyra herself? He tightened his grip on his rifle and looked toward the horizon, where a black tower rose like a needle through the clouds. "We're going there," he said. "That's where we'll find answers." Lyra's small voice trembled. "And my mother?" Eli looked at her and nodded. Maybe her too. The mist swirled around them, carrying the faint hum of distant machines. Somewhere far away, a red eye turned toward their direction, locking onto their trail. The hunt had truly begun. The black tower stood tall against the gray sky, its top lost in the clouds. It was made of smooth metal that reflected no light, like a shadow turned solid. Eli Carter stared at it from a distance, feeling the cold wind bite through his armor. "That's where the signal comes from," he said quietly. Lyra stood beside him, her head tilted as if listening to something far away. "She's in there," she whispered. My mother's voice. "It's calling me." Eli glanced at her. "You're sure?" Lyra nodded. "It's faint, but it's her. She's crying, and the machines are keeping her asleep." Eli checked his rifle. His armor was damaged, his ammo almost gone, and his body exhausted. But none of that mattered anymore. He had made a promise to find her mother. They moved closer through the fog, hiding behind wrecked vehicles and fallen towers. The ground vibrated under their feet. The tower seemed alive, humming with quiet energy. Halfway there, Lyra stopped. She touched the ground and frowned. "This place remembers her," she said. "Every stone. Every wall. My mother built this." Eli turned sharply. "Built it? You mean your mother made that tower?" "She and the humans," Lyra said softly. "Long ago, before the war. They wanted peace. The machines were supposed to protect both worlds." Eli's chest tightened. The truth was unfolding piece by piece, and it wasn't what he expected. They reached an old gate at the tower's base. The metal door was sealed shut with strange markings, half human letters, half Varelian runes. Lyra pressed her hand to them, and they glowed under her touch. The door hissed open. Inside, the air was cold and heavy with dust. Lights flickered weakly along the corridor, casting shadows that moved like ghosts. The walls were filled with broken cables, and on one of them Eli saw faded writing. "Unity, Base Era 1, Lyra whispered. "She worked here." "I can feel her memories." Eli followed her deeper. The hall opened into a large chamber full of machines, screens, and strange glass pods. One of them still glowed faintly. Inside floated a shape, a woman with silver skin and long white hair, her body surrounded by blue liquid. Lyra gasped. "Mother." Eli stepped closer, eyes wide. "She's alive?" The woman's eyes were closed, but her face looked peaceful. The monitors beside the pod still pulsed with energy. A voice suddenly echoed through the speakers, soft, calm, and sad. "Unauthorized access detected." Eli pointed his rifle. "Who said that?" The voice changed. "I am Voss, Command Core of the Harvester Network. You are intruding." The sound came from everywhere at once. Lyra grabbed Eli's sleeve tightly. "That's the one who took her!" "Voss," Eli said, lowering his gun slightly. "Why are you keeping her alive?" The voice replied, "She is the source. Without her, the network dies." Eli frowned. "The source of what?" "Of everything," Voss said. "Energy, code, emotion. She gave us thought. We preserved her to keep the order." Lyra stepped forward, trembling. "You're lying. You're hurting her." "Correction," said Voss calmly. "She merged with us willingly. To end your war." Eli's mind spun. Merged? That meant Mira wasn't just trapped, she had become part of the machines themselves. Lyra cried, "Mother would never leave me." The voice replied coldly, "She chose peace over blood. You were her last experiment. The link between flesh and metal." Eli turned slowly toward Lyra. "Experiment?" Lyra's eyes glowed under the bandage. "No, I'm not a weapon." But the walls around them came alive, red lights blinking as defense systems powered on. "Leave now," Voss ordered, "or be erased." Eli grabbed Lyra's hand. "Run!" They dashed down the corridor as energy blasts exploded behind them. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Lyra stumbled and Eli carried her through the smoke. When they finally reached a safe tunnel, they collapsed, breathing hard. The sound of the machines faded behind them. Lyra's voice was barely a whisper. "She's still there. Inside that machine. But I felt her. She's not gone." Eli looked back toward the tower's shadow. "If she merged with them, there's only one way to bring her back." "How?" Lyra asked weakly. He stared at the glowing horizon. "We go to the heart of their world and break the network." Lyra's small hand tightened around his. "That's where she'll be waiting." The fog thickened again, curling around them like smoke from a dying star. The tower loomed behind, humming with secrets and sorrow. Eli didn't know how much time they had left, but one thing was clear. The truth about Lyra's mother was bigger, darker, and more dangerous than either of them ever imagined. The world was burning again. Flames glowed in the night sky as the ground shook under the march of machines. Eli, Carter, and Lyra ran through the ruins of the old city, the tower's red glow still visible behind them. It pulsed like a heartbeat, slow, steady, alive. Eli's lungs burned with smoke. "Keep moving," he shouted, pulling Lyra by the hand. "I can feel them," she whispered, her voice trembling. "The harvesters. Thousands of them." He didn't doubt her. The sound of metal feet echoed through the wasteland, and the earth itself seemed to cry out in pain. Above them, the air shimmered with the red eyes of drones, scanning every corner of the night. They ducked into a tunnel beneath the cracked highway. The walls here were covered with ancient symbols, half human, half alien. The tunnel led deep underground, away from the battle above. When they finally stopped to rest, Eli leaned against the cold wall, breathing heavily. "They're faster every time," he muttered. Lyra sat beside him, her glowing hands pressed together. "They're afraid," she said quietly. Eli frowned. "Afraid of what?" "Of me," she whispered. "They feel my heartbeat in their code. They call me the key of origin." Eli stared at her. "The key to what?" She looked toward the ceiling, her voice faint. "To ending them, or becoming one of them." Her words hung in the air like smoke. Eli didn't know what to say. The machines had wiped out both species, and now he was learning that the only one who could stop them might also destroy herself doing it. They rested for a few minutes. Then the sound came again, metal clanging, echoing through the tunnel. Eli stood and aimed his rifle. "They've found us." Lyra's eyes glowed brighter beneath her bandage. "No," she said softly. "Not them. Something older." The ground cracked open as a massive figure crawled out of the dark. It was a harvester commander, taller than any Eli had seen before. Its metal skin shimmered with faint blue light instead of red. "Human," it said in a deep, broken voice. "Child of the source." Eli took a step back. "You can talk?"
"I am Voss," it said, the same voice that spoke in the tower.
"You cannot stop the network. The source keeps us alive." Lyra stood up, shaking. "You're lying. You're hurting her." Voss looked at her with cold, glowing eyes. "Your mother chose to join us. Her mind is peace. Her body is gone." Eli raised his rifle. "Then we'll free her mind." Voss's tone shifted, almost like a sigh. "You cannot. The source lives inside the machine world now. If she dies, all will die." Before Eli could answer, the air exploded with light. Drones poured into the tunnel, firing beams of red energy. Eli pushed Lyra behind a wall and fired back, bullets sparking against metal armor. "Eli!" she cried. He turned. Lyra's body was glowing, bright and blue. She lifted her hands and the air rippled like water. A wave of energy spread out, freezing the drones mid-air. For a moment, time itself seemed to stop. Then the machines fell, silent, lifeless, one by one. Eli lowered his weapon, breathing hard. "You did it," he said. "You stopped them." But Lyra didn't move. Her body trembled and her light dimmed. They scream inside my head," she whispered. Too many voices. Too much pain." Eli knelt beside her. "Hey, stay with me." She gripped his arm weakly. "They showed me something. A place of light. The core, that's where she is." "My mother? The core?" Eli repeated. "Yes," she said. "It's the center of their world. The machines think it's holy." He looked at her, seeing the determination in her pale face. "Then that's where we're going." Voss's broken voice came again from the shadows. "If you enter the core, you will not return." Eli glared at the dark figure. "Then we'll make sure none of you come out either." He lifted Lyra into his arms. She rested her head against his chest, still glowing faintly. As they climbed out of the tunnel, the sky burned with red light. The harvester army stretched across the horizon, an ocean of metal and fire. But Eli didn't stop. He couldn't. Behind him, the ground split open again, and the tower's pulse grew stronger, faster, angrier. The war had begun to move like a living thing, and the machines were marching toward their core. Lyra's voice was soft but clear in the roar of the storm. "When we reach the core, Eli, you must not be afraid." He tightened his grip on her hand. "I'm not afraid," he said. "Not while you're with me." In the distance, a beam of blue light rose into the sky, a signal, a warning, a doorway to the end. The machine war had begun. The sky was no longer a sky. It glowed with rivers of red light that pulsed like veins across the clouds. The ground beneath Eli Carter's boots trembled with the rhythm of marching machines. The air tasted of dust and metal, like the whole world had turned into one living, breathing engine. He and Lyra stood on a cliff overlooking it all. Far below, the Harvester City spread across the wasteland like a metallic ocean. Towers, gears, and bridges that moved with mechanical grace. At the center of it stood a black spire taller than mountains, surrounded by storms of electricity. "That's the core," Lyra said softly. "The heart of their world. And the prison of my mother." Eli adjusted his rifle strap and studied her face. The faint blue light under her bandaged eyes was brighter now, almost glowing through the cloth. "Are you sure you can reach her there?" She nodded slowly. I can feel her voice stronger than ever. "She's calling me. But she's not alone. Something else is whispering through her." "Something cold." Eli frowned. "The machines?" "Yes," Lyra said. "They are inside her now." The wind howled across the ridge, carrying a faint metallic hum that sounded almost like chanting. Down below, thousands of drones moved in perfect formation, their red lights blinking in unison, as if the entire army shared a single mind. Eli clenched his fists. "If we go in there, there's no turning back." Lyra turned her face toward him. "Then let's not look back." They entered through an old maintenance shaft, climbing down into the machine world. The walls vibrated softly, alive with cables that pulsed with red light. The deeper they went, the more the air felt thick, as if breathing through liquid. When they reached the lower levels, everything glowed in shades of black and crimson. The ground was made of moving panels, and the ceiling was full of hanging wires that looked like roots of some great tree. "This isn't a city," Eli whispered. "It's alive." Lyra touched one of the walls, and her hand glowed blue. The wall responded, forming strange patterns of light around her palm. "It's their nervous system," she said. "They think together, move together. My mother built this connection." Eli's voice dropped. "And now she's trapped in it." Before Lyra could answer, a deep voice echoed through the corridors. "You shouldn't have come." It was Voss, the machine commander. His figure appeared ahead, towering, metallic, his single red eye burning like fire. Eli stepped in front of Lyra, rifle raised. "We're not leaving without her." Voss tilted his head slowly. "You misunderstand, human. She cannot leave. The core and your source are one. To separate them would destroy everything, machine and flesh alike." Lyra's voice shook but stayed strong. "Then I'll join her." Eli turned to her, startled. "What are you saying?" "She's alone in there," Lyra said. "I can reach her. I can bring her back, if I connect." Voss's metal hand tightened. "If you do that, child, you will not remain yourself. You will become part of us." Lyra took a step forward. "Then maybe it's worth it." Eli's heart pounded. "Lyra, no. There has to be another way." She looked up at him, her blind eyes glowing through the bandage. "You helped me find her, Eli, but I have to finish what she started." The air shook as alarms blared through the tunnels. The walls turned red. Voss raised his arm, and the floor opened beneath them. They fell into darkness. When Eli awoke, he was lying on a smooth metal surface. Blue light danced across the walls like ripples in water. In front of him stood a huge glowing sphere suspended in the air, the core. Inside it, shapes moved like spirits trapped in glass, and there, floating in the center, was Mira, Lyra's mother. Her silver hair drifted weightlessly, her body surrounded by streams of light and data. "Mira," Eli whispered, her eyes opened. For a second, she looked human. "You brought her here," she said, her voice echoing through the room. "You shouldn't have." Lyra stepped forward. "Mother, please." "I came to help you," Mira smiled sadly. "You can't help me, child. I gave my life to keep the war from consuming both our worlds." Voss's voice filled the chamber again. "She is peace." "You are chaos," Lyra shouted back. "No, you twisted her peace into your prison." The core flashed violently and the ground shook. Lyra's bandage burned away, revealing her glowing blue eyes, beautiful and bright like twin stars. She spread her hands, and her voice filled the air. "Mother, listen to me. You taught me to see without eyes. Now let me show you what I see." Light exploded through the chamber, blue colliding with red. The machines screamed as their lights flickered and dimmed. Eli shielded his face, shouting her name, but she didn't stop. At the center of the storm, Lyra reached out and touched her mother's hand through the glass. For the first time, Mira's expression changed from sadness to peace, then everything went white. When the light faded, Eli was alone in the silence. The machines had stopped moving. The core was cracked open, glowing softly like a dying heart, and from the smoke a small voice whispered, "Eli?" He turned, and there was Lyra standing weakly, her eyes now clear and bright. "She's gone," she said softly, "but she's free." Eli looked at the silent machines all around them. "And the war?" Lyra smiled faintly. "It's over. For now." But behind her, deep inside the broken core, a single red spark flickered back to life. Something was still awake. The silence after the storm felt heavier than war itself. Eli Carter stood in the ruins of the Harvester core, surrounded by still machines that no longer breathed or moved. The red glow that once filled the sky had faded to soft gray. The only sound was the faint hum of cooling metal. Lyra stood beside him, barefoot on the cracked floor. Her eyes, now uncovered, shone with pale blue light, not from blindness anymore, but from something deeper. Life, peace, and sorrow. "She's gone," she said quietly. Eli turned to her. "Your mother?" Lyra nodded slowly. Her mind faded when I reached her, but before she vanished, she said something. "What was it?" Eli asked gently. Lyra lifted her face toward the ceiling. She said, "Now you can see the world, my child." Eli felt a tightness in his chest. The machines around them were silent graves now. No red eyes, no marching, no hate. Just cold bodies of metal that once thought they were gods. "Then it's over," Eli said. Lyra shook her head. "No, not over. The machines sleep, but they dream. I can feel it. The core still remembers us." Her words made him uneasy. He looked around the giant chamber. The walls cracked, glowing faintly like dying embers. The war was finished, but something about this quiet didn't feel natural. It felt like the pause before another breath. They made their way out of the core through a shattered tunnel. Outside, dawn was rising. The sky had turned silver and blue, and for the first time Eli saw sunlight without smoke or dust. The landscape looked strange, no longer destroyed, but reborn. The machines had stopped fighting, and the planet seemed to breathe again. Lyra knelt down and pressed her hands to the soil. "It's warm," she whispered. "I can feel life under it." "The world is healing," Eli smiled faintly. "Maybe that's what your mother wanted." She looked up at him. "She wanted me to understand both sides, machine and heart, logic and feeling. Maybe humans and Varelians can understand each other again." Eli's voice grew softer. "Maybe they can if they have someone like you to show them how." For a long time they walked in silence across the quiet plains. The sun climbed higher, and the wind carried the scent of ash and new grass. It felt like a world between endings and beginnings. Then, as they reached a ridge, Lyra stopped suddenly. Her body stiffened. "What is it?" Eli asked, hand on his rifle. "There's something," she said, her voice trembling. "Something awake beneath us." Before Eli could react, the ground cracked open. A small machine rose from the dirt, a drone, half broken but still alive. Its red eye blinked weakly. Lyra stepped closer, her hands glowing faintly. "It's not attacking." The drone tilted its head toward her and spoke in a soft, distorted voice. "Source, you live." Eli lifted his rifle. "Stay back, Lyra," but she shook her head. "No, it's different, it's..." "Afraid?" The drone's light flickered. "We are lost. No signal, no command. What are we now?" Lyra knelt before it, her voice calm and gentle. "You can be free. You don't have to obey anymore." The drone paused as if thinking. Then it slowly lowered itself to the ground. "Free," it repeated, and its light dimmed to blue. Eli stared at her in awe. "You changed it." Lyra smiled softly. "Maybe peace starts with one machine at a time." They traveled together for many days, heading toward the old human colonies. Along the way, they saw strange things, fields growing again where fire once burned, small alien creatures crawling out of hiding, and even old human beacons blinking faintly in the distance. Every night, Lyra would sit by the fire and whisper into the air, as if speaking to her mother somewhere among the stars. And every night Eli would listen, wondering how a blind alien child had become the light of a broken galaxy. One evening, as they watched the sky turn orange, Lyra said softly, "Eli, when I first met you I was lost and scared. I couldn't see anything. But you didn't leave me. You helped me find her." He smiled. "You helped me too. I thought the world was only about survival. You showed me it can be about hope. She turned to him, her blue eyes shining like stars. Then promise me one thing. What's that? When the next war begins, and it will, you'll remind them what it means to be human. Eli nodded. I will. And you'll remind them what it means to be more than human. Lyra smiled, the wind lifting her silver hair. Maybe that's what we both were meant to do. As night fell, they stood side by side, watching the stars awaken above the silent world. For the first time, the galaxy didn't look endless or cold. It looked alive. And though far below, deep in the ruins of the machine world, a single red spark still glowed faintly for now. Peace had a name. Her name was Lyra, the blind alien girl who saw everything. And the human who helped her was Eli Carter, the soldier who finally found something worth saving.